Good afternoon. I'm going to talk to you today about hospice and my experience with them, which was very good. About a week after Sharon got into the nursing home, I had a doctor's appointment with our doctor, and we went over there, and he checked her over, and within a relatively short period of time, he said, "Well, Sharon needs to be put in under hospice care." Um, I wasn't really sure totally what that was or meant, but I said that's fine. I'd heard of it. I can't remember whether he called hospice or what, but we made an appointment, and the lady from hospice came over to the nursing home with all the papers, and we sat down, and she explained to me what was going on. And so I signed Sharon up. And I know two things that she said. One was it's a 6 month program for people who are terminal, but they can extend it if necessary. The other important thing was that they would take her off all life extending medications. But she could have a pain pill if she needed it, or a sleeping pill, anything like that was fine. But that they were totally in charge of her medication. So I was real happy to see that they had a nurse come out and see her about twice a week. We had a nurse there on the facility also, but hospice sent out their nurse in addition. Um, also, they had a service lady who was would come out and talk with them if they wanted to pray. So there was a lot of nurturing that they did also. Um, I remember, and I'm not sure, but it seemed like somebody came out and did her nails. I don't know if it was them or not, but it seems like I remember that. But they were just really, really nice. Um, one Sunday morning, I came in and they said that Sharon was under a lot of stress and she was didn't want to get out of bed, and that was really unusual. So I went down to her room. And sure enough, she was there and she was kind of kicking covers off and just really not doing very well. On Sunday, the nursing staff at the nursing home takes the day off. So there was no support there at that time. I didn't want to wait till Monday because I thought, well, that's just too long. So I called hospice, and they sent a nurse out, and he took about 2 minutes look at her, and he said she needs to go to hospice house. I wasn't totally sure what that was, but I knew it was a facility that they had. Um, so he arranged it. A big medical truck came and picked her up, and I followed him down to hospice house. They had me wait a few minutes because they wanted to get her cleaned up and straightened out and whatever. And so when they let me go in, there she was in this bed in a beautiful room. I mean, my gosh, there were like three big Davenports. There was a big television, lounges for if you wanted to sleep there. But it was equipped for families because it was the final time, and so a big family could come in there, and there was plenty of room for them. She even had the French doors that went out to this lovely garden. The facility was all one level, so all of these rooms, I guess, were basically the same. Beautiful rooms. They had 12 of them opened up like that. And even though Sharon never recovered consciousness, she was basically asleep there for 3 days. I kept whispering to her that she was in a beautiful, beautiful room in a beautiful place. They're very attentive. One nurse handled just a few people, so the nurse was there all the time. I remember sitting there one day and she said, "Mr. Hunter, I want to show you something." And so I went over there and she pointed to her brow and she said, "See that wrinkle there?" And I said, "Well, yeah." She said, "Well, Sharon's under some stress, so we're going to relieve that." And what they did is they've got a little thing like a Q-tip, and they put a little narcotic on that, and then they put it under their tongue. And it's enough to ease the situation because in a little while I went over and looked, and there she was. She was resting peaceful, and the wrinkle had gone. So they really know what they're doing. I felt real safe. Once a day, the doctor came by and checked her over. So I mean, we were really taken care of. Um, One night, I was right the third day. I was usually went home because I didn't want to stay there in those lounge chairs where I'd rather be in my own bed. And the nurse said, "Oh, she's fine. She'll be fine. So why don't you go on home?" So I did. About 7 in the morning, I got a phone call, and the nurse said, "Well, Sharon had a rough night, and so you better get down here because I think she's about ready to go." Well, 7 o'clock in the morning on a weekday, rush hour, there's no way. I mean, I was 30 minutes away normal and an hour away with traffic. So she called me part of the way down and she said, "Well, Mr. Hunter, don't rush. Sharon has passed away." And she passed away very quietly, and I was in the room with her and everything was fine. So just take your time. Well, I had spent about 5 or 6 hours with her in the nursing home when she was struggling. And I had basically said goodbyes to her. She recognized me, and we had really a wonderful time then. So I wasn't overly concerned that I wasn't there when she passed away. When I got there, they had fixed her up in the bed, laying on her back, her hands crossed, with a beautiful rose in her hands. She looked beautiful. I was there for a few minutes and the nurse walked in. And I asked her, I said, "Would you mind saying the Lord's Prayer with me?" And she said, "Oh, I'd love to." So we crossed our hands on top of her hands and we said the Lord's Prayer. And that just really was the final thing for me. I just felt really good. Um, I left her then. I was in the room for probably an hour, and I left her, knowing that she was headed for a lot nicer place. I cremated her, and we were both from Seattle area. And my family uh, summer homes and homes were situated around Miller Bay. And Miller Bay is across from Seattle. And in fact, from Miller Bay, you can look across and see Seattle. So it's on the other side of Puget Sound. And I played there as a kid. We had family picnics. I mean, I that was a big place for our family. Little did I know that Sharon's family, also her uncle and grandfather, had a place on Miller Bay too. And when she was a kid, she played there. We probably ran into each other, but of course we never knew who anybody was. She was 4 years younger than I, so probably she would have been a big pain in the butt anyway. Um, but we had roots there. And so we decided that that's where we wanted to be left, was in Miller Bay. Now, my mother's in Millers Bay. My aunts, some aunts, uncles, cousins, there's a whole bunch of family that are in Miller Bay. And so we went out there. We uh, took a canoe out and spread her ashes out in Miller Bay. My sister had a beautiful rose bush, and we got all these rose petals, and we sprinkled them around with my sister and brother-in-law, my son, um, uh, my niece and nephew. There's a bunch of us there, and it was wonderful. I've since visited there, and it's such a peaceful, beautiful place. And that's where I'm going to end up someday in Miller Bay with the rest of my family. So that's pretty much the end of my story about Sharyn and our life with Alzheimer's. And I hope that what I've given you is stuff that can at least pique your curiosity, give you some ideas on what might work or might not work. I mean, a lot of people are different. Not everything's the same, but there's a lot of commonality within the cycle of the disease. And I hope that you can figure this out. I wanted to put it on tape because I'm getting older. Uh, this can be on these tapes after I'm gone, and maybe will help. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to label, because I have, I believe, 13 of them. I'm going to label the content so that when you pull them up, you can see Life with Sharyn and then what it's about. It's going to work out nice because people will come to me and ask me a question. And I will try to explain it briefly because usually there's not a lot of time. And then I can say, well, if you'll go to YouTube and go to Sharyn, Life with Sharyn number 6, and there's a lot of information there that will help you out with that. Every now and then, I'll get a phone call from somewhere in the United States. I'm listed uh, on the information section with our church, and so it goes all over the country. And people will call me. Well, instead of spending a long time on the phone, I can just answer their question briefly and then say, why don't you look at Life with Sharyn number 10? And that will answer your question. So I think that will simplify a lot of things. And I hope that this has been helpful to you. I've quite frankly enjoyed this. I think maybe you can probably tell that I'm going to actually miss our little get-togethers here in the morning. But maybe somebody will come up with a question, and I need to do some to talk about that. So I'm certainly open to that. But until we meet again, I love you all, and I wish you the best. And just don't let Alzheimer's get the best of you. Don't do it. Uh, you can get the best of it if you just relax and just let them be, and you relax, and things will turn out just fine. So have a great day and see you soon. Bye bye.